You're fired.
Recessions.
They fired you!
They fired your removal.
You're firing?
Fired.
A recession, but only a
Yes.
Significant financial crisis in the
About recession fears for
Inflation hit 8.6%.
Just
highest
that one word is enough to depict the downward trends in any economy. Economic slowdown, alarming news headlines, fear, unemployment, bankruptcy, and this one word literally sends chills down the spine of businessmen, investors, jobbers. In fact, everyone is scared of these times because they all know tough times are ahead. But is it really tough for everyone or for some? So while many are losing money, businesses, savings and properties, some are thriving.
Really?
Yes, it's true. During times of recession, the stock market falls, property prices plummet, businesses go bankrupt, people lose their jobs, life savings are lost, pensions that people have been putting money in since the start of their working careers just vanish. Nobody is winning. Or are they? If recessions were so bad, why would someone like Warren Buffett, who's one of the richest men in the world, would say that he hopes to see a lot more recessions? How do some companies which start during financial crisis spread to international markets, while others are either struggling or collapsing? While some see recession as a time of turmoil, others are seeing it as a golden opportunity. And if you've ever wondered, why is it like that or how, then you,
Did you do this?
yeah, you, the one who's watching this video, can profit from a recession. If you want to know how, then keep watching this video, because I'm about to tell you that how recessions have created more millionaires than lottery winnings have. And by the end of this video, you'll exactly know how to take advantage of the next inevitable recession that comes your way. But before that, you have to decide which side are you on, the losing side or on the side where people are making money during recessions. But here's a little tip.
This room full of winners. I want you to take a good look at the person next to you. Go on.
The younger you are, the more you're going to want to pay attention to this video, because this is your time to make money. The health of a country's economy is usually measured by its GDP, gross domestic product. The GDP measures the total value of all the goods and services in the country. So every time you get a cup of coffee, a haircut, or buy new clothes, cars, or a fancy house, all of those things contribute to a country's GDP. Generally, a growing GDP is good and a declining GDP is bad. And if the country's GDP has been declining for the past 6 months or more, then it's considered a recession. People stop spending as much money. Business profits decline. People lose their jobs, and then they can't repay debts. A recession can really lead into a downward spiral. And you're probably wondering, okay, we get it, but then you need to ask, what causes a recession? There's the thing, you never really know for sure. There are so many factors and variables that contribute to any recession, it's hard to pinpoint one thing, which leads us to the first rule. No one can predict the market.
Okay, if you're Warren Buffett or if you're Jimmy Buffett, nobody knows if the stock is going to go up, down, sideways.
Now, does that make you anxious? Because if you're going to profit from recession and you can't predict the market, then how will you profit? Just hang on, sit back and relax. There's one thing you really need to know, and that is, do not panic. Because no matter how bad the market looks, there's one thing that people like Warren Buffett know for sure. The market will always bounce back. Write that one down. Because it's all fun and games when the economy is in a boom. But when the inevitable crash happens, Guess what people do? Just take a guess.
I don't know.
Alright, I'll tell you. They panic and they start to sell. The homes that they own decrease in value, so they sell it. The stocks they have decrease in value, so they sell it. Notice how I said, when the inevitable crash happens. Then why inevitable? I thought I said you can't predict the market. Perhaps it would have been more accurate for me to say that you can't time the market. Because one thing is for sure, the market will always eventually crash. So there are your 3 rules. Remember them clearly and just do not panic. They're the golden words. The economy is booming. People are spending their money like crazy, buying the latest clothes, gadgets, cars, houses, or whatever their hearts desire. It is consuming time, and that means credit cards are flying out of wallets. People are racking up debt like crazy. But it's all good, the economy is flourishing. So what are you doing? Now is the time for you to sharpen your weapons and rally your army. Because whilst everyone is getting greedy, this is the time for you to prepare for disaster. Remember, the market will always crash, and although you might not know when, how or why, it is always important that you prepare beforehand. The first step is to stop spending like everybody else. Start saving and build up your capital. Avoid debt as much as possible and save as much as possible. When that inevitable crash comes, you want to be the one with deep pockets and a healthy credit score, ready to take the advantage of those juicy low rates that come with the recession. There's nothing worse than being surrounded by gold with no tools to harvest it. Did you get all of that? Good. Because there's an economic collapse on the way, and it's time for you to make your riches. Death, divorce, defaults. It is these 3 things that reign supreme during a recession. In every society where money is heavily relied upon for keeping the system going, the collapse of that very object has dramatic consequences, and the bigger the crash, the harder the hit. In a recession, you can expect people to lose their jobs, and you can expect people who have still kept their jobs to have their incomes reduced. This means that people will be unable to pay off things like debts, loans, repayments that they've racked up during those sweet times of economic boom. There's a rise in panic and fear, and everybody's selling.
Sell it all.
Selling.
The firm has decided to liquidate.
And just selling.
Sell.
They're selling their stocks. They're selling their houses.
You're going to sell the house.
They're selling their assets that they once seen grow in value, but now decline. Nobody's even thinking about investing their money. But you've prepared for this, haven't you? See, behind all panic and fear of everyone, there is a goldmine of opportunity. Again, death, divorce, and defaults. These 3 things are riddled with opportunity. It's just a matter of choosing how you want to make your profit and running with it. So what should you be doing during the time of economic collapse? That's right. Invest back into the very economy that is collapsing. And whilst that might seem silly to many people around you, you know that's something that they don't. For the market is always going to bounce back. And here's the best investment advice you can get. Buy low, sell high. Let's look at the real estate. The more motivated and urgently someone needs to sell their home, the more likely they are to sell their home much cheaper. And guess what are the 3 biggest motivations for people to sell their homes? Death, divorce, and defaults. With those three things already on the rise during an economic collapse, real estate becomes cheaper. Homeowners are becoming desperate to sell their houses. And to make matters even worse, guess what happens to the amount of people who are willing to buy a house? There are fewer and fewer of them. I mean, all people are losing money. They don't have the finance to buy a house. And with all these motivated sellers, along with the cheap real estate on the rise, guess who's gonna come in and take all the advantage of it? You.
Real estate is how most millionaires are made.
This is why the preparation was so key, because by now, you should have had a good amount of capital saved up and a healthy credit score so that banks are more likely to trust you when you come to them and ask to borrow money to buy the property. Your strategy from here can differ. You can buy the property and let it out for a long period of time to generate some sweet cash flows in. If you bought the property at a really low price, it won't be hard for you to start seeing returns on it. Others will let it out during a recession, and when the real estate market bounces back up, as it always will, you can then sell it and get some generous returns on that. Not feeling rich enough yet? No! Let's look at the stock market. Just like the real estate, stocks are cheaper. After all, people are losing their faith in the market. Nobody wants to invest. And what's one of the biggest influences in the stock market? Emotions. During recession, everyone is selling their shares out of fear. I mean, these people have put so much money into stock market. They're now selling all of those shares at a decline. The only way for them to even salvage a bit of that money is to just sell. If only they knew what you know, which is that the market will always bounce back. So it is time to open up that wallet and go bargain hunting, because in a recession, everything is on a discount. Let's look at businesses. Not all businesses fail during a recession. In fact, there have been many that have thrived during the 2008 financial crisis. Walmart and Dollar Tree. What do these businesses have in common? They're in one way related to cheaper prices and discounts. And I mean, it's not hard to see how that can come in handy during a time of financial struggle. And just like with any business, money comes in when you solve people's problems. And a company that is offering cheaper prices on necessities like groceries and other services, they're going to make a ton of money. Netflix, during the peak of recession, gained 3 million members. Industries which include products like tobacco do really well during a recession. Notice the trend? A lot of these companies are selling escapism. It makes sense, right? The recession is hard. A lot of people are struggling, and the last thing they want to do is to think about that. So just turn on the Netflix, light up that cigarette, or watch my videos on YouTube, buy a toy for your child, and don't think about your worries. By making investments in businesses, real estates, or stocks that allow you to replicate similar results during the recession, it's time for you to sit back and wait this recession out before the economy, as it always does, bounce right back up. And there you have it, your recession rate. The most important part of all of this was the preparation stage, and whilst you can time the market, just know that the crash is going to happen at some point. Investing in real estate during the recession, generally, the market is always growing. So the more time you keep your investments in the market, the more profits you can see come from that. Which is why I said the younger you are, the better. Now really, a recession can be a really difficult time for a lot of people. And whilst I'm not jumping and waiting for the next recession to happen, it will happen at some point in time. So you might as well make something from it. Thank you so much for watching.